Yeah, so myself and Sean served in the 7th Battalion together. We're in the same unit, and Sean has left the army. How long are you out now?
2020 is when I left, so three years now.
Yeah. And you're personal trainer now at B2B?
I'm 90. Sorry, 2021 is when I left during lockdown. So
okay.
2021, so I'm out 2 years.
Yeah.
And working as a coach in a gym now.
Yeah. And do you miss the army?
I do miss the army. Definitely certain parts of the army you miss. You miss the lads. You miss like getting to do the sort of things that you wouldn't generally get to do on a day-to-day basis. I know they joke and they say a life less ordinary and stuff like that, but like there is a lot of the kind of cool stuff that you get to do, like shooting guns and stuff like that you don't get to do in day-to-day life that you would miss. Like,
yeah. What was the thought process then about you, like for you, like joining the army? Like, why did you join?
I joined in 2012, and when I joined, it was like right in the height of the middle of the recession.
Yeah.
And it was at that point where people were losing their jobs every week. Every week you heard of somebody new who was after losing their job. Somebody's mom, somebody's dad, some person that was after losing a job. And every time you looked at the news, you saw people's businesses that were closing down. It was just a never-ending stream of it. And I had recently found out that I had a little girl on the way. I didn't know it was a girl at the time now, but I had recently found out that I had a little girl on the way. And I was only working as a manager in a restaurant at the time, and I had this kind of just daunting worry that my job might be next. And I started looking for places where I knew that I was going to have a little bit more of a sustained income if something fell through. Applied to the army. We were waiting months and months to try and get a response from them, just because we were the first platoon that came in after the embargo.
Yeah.
So it was a long time, but the main reason was job security, and I suppose that's an awful lot of the reason why people generally tend to join.
You were into sports though before you joined, right? Yeah.
Like I had played sport my whole life. I like to kind of throw my hand at anything.
Right.
You know what I mean? I love to compete.
Yeah.
I love a little bit of competition with anything. So. The main two sports that I did play growing up that I kind of focused on was Gaelic football and then athletics. Definitely more athletics than Gaelic football, but
right.
But yeah, I liked them two sports the most. I kind of dedicated most of my time to them two sports.
Yeah. Was the army then something that was like always on the horizon, or was it purely like just job security? That was the main reason.
It was partially job security and partially that I thought that the what was involved in being a soldier was something that I was going to be able to adapt to pretty handy. I thought, physically I was able to kind of hold my own. I thought, mentally I was able to hold my own. Intellectually I was able to hold my own. So I thought, and again, I would definitely not be the sort of person who was going to be able to sit around at a desk all day. That would drive me mad. I'm basically about as close to being ADHD without being diagnosed as you could imagine. So I wouldn't be able to do it. I get distracted by everything. So I thought, a job where I was going to be able to be kind of up, about, look after me kind of physical health and stuff like that was going to be something that I'd prioritise. I'd like.
Yeah. And I know you mentioned the embargo and everything. How many months from you applying to getting in did it take?
It was January. It was January in 2012 when I first applied,
right.
And we were the first group that went through the psychometric testing. As well. Yeah. So we went through 2 sessions of the psychometric test, and there was there were so many rounds. It was January was the initial application.
Yeah.
Then in February we were sent another questionnaire that kind of basically narrowed down a couple of people. It was are you willing to do this? Are you willing to do this? It was just stay away from home and be out on missions and blah blah blah.
Yeah.
And once you take the yes to every one of them, well then you were sent on to the next stage. But if any of that didn't suit you, well then you were basically crossed off the list. Then we had psychometric testing in March. We had psychometric testing again in April. There was a second round.
Jesus.
Then fitness testing, interviews, and medicals. So we were being tested the whole way, or we were being checked up the whole way through the year. There was it seemed like there was an awful lot of people to go through. I think I remember at the time somebody saying that there was like 10,500 applicants for like 400 jobs or something like that.
I remember like being at the gates in like I joined in 2008, so I remember like the queue for like new applicants coming in to do their fitness test. It was like they ran I think 3 or 4 sessions of fitness tests a day, and the queue would be from like the main gate all the way down to like past Mary School, I think it was. It's absolutely crazy. So there was like a lot that time. I think I just got in, I was lucky when I got in, so I think I signed up in September in 2007 and I was in then January 2008, like, so a lot less shorter. But then you got in, you got done your recruit training. Where did you train?
I trained in the 27th Battalion up in Dundalk.
Right.
It was intense. They don't have an awful lot of love for the dubs. And an awful lot of it is wind up, I will say, like, but you're a long way from home as well, like, a long way from home.
You get the typical dub stuff all the time.
The West Brits can get caught back quite a bit, like.
But how like recruit training, right? So do you remember like your first day and stuff?
Yeah, I remember my first day. Yeah, I remember it very well. It was actually quite funny. You get your letter to say that your training is starting on such and such a date, and this is the time that you're to report for, and blah blah blah. And it says, bring close friends and family if you want to, and everything like that. And I thought to myself, I'm going up to start in the army. I was like, I'm not bringing my man and dad with me. I was like, nobody be bringing the man and dad with them. And I arrived up and everybody had their man, dad, girlfriends and partners and kids and everything with them. And I was just sitting there meowing and I was like, bollocks.
Oh, that's completely different to mine. So I just arrived at the gate with me 2 bags, and do you know like the little hut that's at like across from the main gate? There was loads was just crammed in there, and then the sergeant came down, started calling out everyone's name. We're all like put into a line and then sworn in. But very very different. I suppose different barracks have different ways of doing things.
Yeah, right? That's true.
But what was so you went through your crew training then, like, and then you done your 2-3 star training in Dundalk as well, did you?
Yeah.
How did you find that?
Oh, I mean, the training was intense. Training is intense. Like, it's training, like recruit training and 2-3 star training in the army is something that you only really understand if you've done it yourself. Like, it's gas, because when you talk about it with other people who were never in the army, they nearly look at you like you're bullshitting. They look at you like you're taking the piss, because they're like, it couldn't possibly have been like that. And like, only other army people are like, no, it was like that. It was every bit as rough as that. Like, you know what I mean? I mean, it's intense, yourself. Like, when you're in barracks, it's intense from morning till night. Yeah. Like, when you're on the ground, it's even more intense and more fatigue and more exhausting. And then when you're doing the courses, like the likes of your unarmed combat, your survival skills and stuff like that, like they're intense weeks. Like, really, really intense weeks.
What was the best part of like the recruit training or the different courses? Like, like the unarmed combat, the riot training, the mag. Did any particular part that like stands out for you? Finishing it, to be honest with you. Finishing
it. There. I remember when we passed. I remember when we finished the ground phase, we walked, or the 2-3 star ground phase, and we walked from Jesus, what are the name of the mountains? The Cooley Mountains. We walked from the Cooley Mountains back to the camp. Right. It was a fairly long walk, and it was after being out for a couple of days, and we were fatigued, we were wrecked, our feet are in bits, our hands are in bits, and it's just like, this is never going to end. And you're walking down that road and it just feels like it is just never ending. But when you get back to the end, it was nearly like, take off your gear. It was like, it's done. And we were like, thank fucking God.
It's the best feeling in the world, that is, isn't it? It's just like, oh, I'm out here, thank God. But yeah. And then, once you got in then, like, how did you find it then, sir? What, 8 years in?
Yeah.
You went through like a couple of different courses. Like, what was like the main course that you would have went through? As
soon as I passed out as a 3 star and I went to the 7th Battalion, I applied for an ILSW course as soon as I got in the door, and got it. I couldn't believe that I was after getting it. Me and, funnily enough, the 3 lads, there was 4 of us who were sent to Dublin. Everybody else got Galway, Athlone, places like that. it was right after the what was it called, where everybody got moved.
The reorg, yeah.
The reorg.
Yeah, so that was when we moved from like 2nd Battalion, and the 5th Battalion came over, became the 7th Battalion.
To the Brewer, and then you became the 7th Battalion, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
Yeah, and the only 4 lads who got the Brewer were people who had kids.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Yeah, and everybody else got pushed down to Galway and Athlone and everything like that.
Yeah.
And they were all disgusted at it. Now the lads who went to Galway, most of them were single lads who went off to Galway and had an absolute ball of a time for a few years, and then got transferred back to Dublin.
Yeah,
but
that's the thing. Like when you join, right, you can be sent anywhere.
Yeah.
As well. Like, but like I suppose if you're young and single, like they're getting sent to Galway is probably not too bad. If you can make your way back to Dublin at some stage. Yeah. But
it's like living on a Stags.
Yeah, because lads would be out like a lot, wouldn't they? Like,
stop.
Down there.
Well, then they started living outside of barracks, like, you know what I mean. You'd be in a WhatsApp group with the lads who you trained. I remember, like, obviously still in the WhatsApp group with them, and I remember you'd be like hearing stories being passed down and laughing your socks off and thinking, I'm stuck here in Dublin, and then boys are having the crack down in Galway.
Jeez.
We used to like live for the weekend of the year where the Gaelic Sevens would be on.
Yeah.
It was like the 7-a-side Gaelic tournament, and anybody who played Gael was like, yeah, I'll play. You went down, and it was just an absolute piss up for the whole weekend. It was fantastic. It was always on the same weekend or the same week as the Galway races.
Oh yes.
Galway was packed. Your accommodation was paid for. Like, and you went out. You played a few games of football, and you went out on the roof with everyone that night. Like, it was class.
Definitely wasn't organised on purpose. But then, in terms of like the ILSW course, like that's the ILSW is infantry light support weapons, is it?
Yeah.
And that's like machine gun, the 60
SF.
The SF.
Yeah,
the SF
SF
machine gun. The 60.
The 60. And 84 anti-tank.
That's kind of like the anti-tank weapon.
Yeah.
How did you find that?
Tough.
Yeah.
It was tough. I mean, I was still in the mode. I was.
Yeah, straight out training.
Yeah, straight out training. Like, you know what I mean. Probably the best time to do it.
Yeah,
like,
definitely.
because it was 12 weeks long, and then it was that what's it, the vehicle recognition thing, the AVF or AFE. Jesus, I can't remember.
Oh, this is when you're looking at the different tanks. Yeah. It's hard. The exam, it's hard.
Hard. And like so, it was 12 weeks long. We basically did like 3 weeks on each of the 3 weapons, and then we did 3 weeks of the tank and plane recognition as well. Yeah. And that was nearly as hard of just sitting in the classroom. And I remember it was the hottest year. Jesus, the summer was so warm. Yeah, I couldn't believe we were after getting the course. I was like, how are we only in the dorm or after getting this course? Because nobody else wanted it.
It's a tough course.
Yeah.
But it's probably one of the better courses though.
It was.
I think, yeah, definitely. But I didn't actually, not that like, I forget what it's called, recognising like different tanks and stuff. We would have done it as well. But I didn't realise like how important that was till I actually went overseas. Like, and we were in Syria, like there was different like T60 tanks going around, like, and different like different weapons. Like you had to kind of point them out and talk about them or whatever. Like if you've seen them on a patrol. So
really,
yeah. So like you're sitting in a class in the brew and you're just like, why am I learning all these? But then you go overseas, you're kind of flicking back through the notes, kind of, oh, what's this? So
yeah, you're able to, it stays with you, doesn't it?
Yeah, 100%. Definitely. Yeah. But so you got the LSW course here, then you done a couple of driving courses then as well. You got your truck license, did you? Or?
No, I actually I only got the car and trailer.
Car and trailer,
yeah.
Handy enough,
it was grand. Yeah, it was perfect. Like I spent a good while kind of in between working in the gym in the brewer.
Oh yeah,
and then working in the officers' mess as well, because I had been looking to try and possibly go to the World Military Games.
Oh, okay, yeah.
A couple of times, but there was very little funding available as far as I can remember. That was the issue. We were trying to get a 4x4 team over there, but they were.
Was that like the CISM, was it?
Yeah, it was exactly what it was. Yeah, CISM.
That's like the military Olympics, right?
Yeah. So we were trying to get across to that. I kind of competed at a good few all army games and stuff like that when I was kind of sprinting at the kind of highest level that I was sprinting at.
Yeah.
And I had won quite a few all army championships, so I was then gonna possibly be able to go to these games. But like I was saying, it was just kind of cut short with the funding.
Yeah.
But obviously, when I was in the gym, I was nearly taken away from all of the courses and stuff like that.
Yeah. Because you're employed then, right?
Yeah, because you're employed. And then when I did come out of the gym, I got the car and trailer course, and they were able to give me the kind of the freedom to be able to do my own training anyway, which was good, because obviously it kind of conflicts with everything that you're doing as a soldier in terms of training, because you're doing all kind of long, slow stuff.
Yeah.
You're not really doing anything that is going to be developing you as a sprinter. And when you're spending all of your time doing the long, slow stuff, it means you're not doing the fast stuff, which is what I which I needed to be doing. So I had to go and get special permissions to be able to do my own. Yeah, I had to be told. Like it was nearly a sort of a situation. It was like when the All Army Games came up, it was like, if you don't win, you're going back to the Lions. You're going back to the Lions. So you'd be like shitting yourself going down. You'd be like, fuck, I better win.
Yeah.
And I remember we had a couple of lads who were really decent runners. Like, you know, there was one of the Fenlon brothers who's a Kilkenny hurler.
Okay.
Yeah, he was quick. Like, you know, I raced him a few times. He beat me over 100 as well before, and but I got him over the 2. So
okay.
So I didn't have to go back to the Lions. It was all right.
Happy days. So you lost it, came second in the 100 and then first in the 200.
Yeah,
that's good going. Sorry.
It was all right. Like, I was like still fuming a little bit, but
second place, first loser.
So I went over a couple of years where I was able to do that. So by the time I had gotten out of, or by the time I had finished up doing the CISM kind of training to try and get qualified for that, and then had come back out onto the Lions and everything like that, I had kind of really gotten out of the mode of training, which kind of tends to happen when you're in the Lions. It's nearly like the love for it can kind of be taken away from you a little bit, you know, the frustration that goes around. It's hard to avoid sometimes, isn't it?
And then did you do like your PT course outside of hours then in the army, or did you do it when you left then?
Yeah, no, I was given a special exemption to be able to go and do the course.
Oh, okay.
By the army, so they looked after me to be able to go and do that. I was doing that 2 days a week.
Okay.
On like a Thursday and a Friday.
Yeah.
And
it wasn't through the military though, was it? Like it was an external college?
No, it was an external college. Yeah. I did it with an external college. So I'd just go off on the Thursday and Friday, go and study, and then come in and work the other 3 days.
Right.
And then obviously then your duties and stuff like that you would normally do.
Yeah.
And after I did that, I fell in love with it.
Yeah.
Absolutely loved it.
Yeah, it's good though the way they put you, because they done the same for me as well. They let me go to college. Well, I went in the evening, so Monday, Wednesday and Thursday I got to go to college in the evening time, and the deal was, if I wasn't putting duties on those days, then I'd be stung for a Saturday duty 3 times a month.
That was the worst.
But like it paid off definitely, like in the end.
Yeah.
But definitely does. But like it's good that like they supported like the external education as well, right? And then were you in for much longer then once you kind of got that course under your belt, or how did that go?
Yeah, I would have actually been. Yeah, I think I did a driving course in like 2016 or 2017, and then I went overseas in 2018.
Yeah.
And then I went on my year's leave of absence in 2019.
Right.
So I kind of like I dipped my toe in the water before I left.
Okay. Yeah. It's not too bad.
Because I feel like, you know, I know that there kind of generally tends to be that fear for people who haven't or who are considering leaving.
Yeah.
And then don't. Because you're always worried, you know, you have that kind of safety net, don't you?
Wages in the bank, like every Wednesday,
that's it. You know, no matter what happens, that way just going into the bank every Wednesday, like.
Definitely. Know. And then overseas, so you're in the lab, right?
Yeah.
How was that?
I was grand.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it's an interesting trip.
Right.
You know what I mean? I think like in general, the trips are just interesting. I think it's an experience. I think that it's something that if you're a soldier, you definitely should get involved in. You should definitely apply for. You should definitely do one trip. And again, I think it's something that's very unique to soldiers. You know, if you're not a soldier, then you don't get it. You know, and I know that, like, funnily enough, you hear of people who are like, sure, you know, it's a holiday camp or whatever, and blah blah blah, and everything like that. But it's 6 months away from your family, away from your friends, you know, away from your children, it's no walk in the park, and they say, "Oh, but you're getting paid for it." And it's like, but I think people are under I think people are under the influence or under the impression that we get paid an awful lot more over there than we actually got paid.
Yeah, it's not as I don't know. The overseas pay, it's not bad, right?
No,
but it's not win the lottery money either. Like,
no, no. There's definitely people who are like working in Ireland, going home every day and getting paid more than we are in the lab. Like, definitely, like, no questions asked.
But
like,
going to the lab as well, it's kind of, I didn't get to go, but I went in Syria, but it's nearly a rite of passage for like an Irish soldier to go to the lab, right? Because all the old stories. True, But and then overseas you came home. Were you in much longer then after?
Well, we had kind of started to we had moved from the lad who I was working with, Sean. We had a gym out his back garden. It was only in a kind of a small studio, a small little PT studio where we used to PT like 6 people at a time. And then just before we had gone overseas, we kind of November 2017, we had moved up to a new premises up on the Belgard Road that was fairly close to where we were, but much bigger, 2 stories. I had like it's about 3,500 square feet.
Okay.
So I had kind of like one big room downstairs and then a smaller room upstairs where we did kind of smaller semi-private PT. And we got that up and running in November 2017, and then I left in May 2018 for my trip. It was a summer trip.
Oh, okay. And then, so you set up the gym, went overseas, and then you came back then, took a year's leave?
Came back, finished off my overseas leave, and I was like, got through Christmas. I was like, I'm going to put in for a year's leave of absence here. I was like, he had said to me at the time, he was like, you know, just trust me, because I had the fear.
Definitely.
You have the fear of leaving. Like, it's such a, and I think that I was only saying to you the other day, I was like, it's like the sunken cost fallacy. You know what I mean? You think that you've put so much into it that, you know, this is the only way, and you have that fear of leaving. But he had said to me, he's been very good to me all the time. Like, you know what I mean? I know Sean since I was a kid. We went to primary school together, secondary school together. And he was like to me, he was like, just take the leap. He was like, I'll look after you. And I was like, you know what? I was like, I'll take the year's leave of absence. I was like, I'll figure out where I am from there, and we'll see what happens. So I took a year's leave of absence.
Okay.
I started in the other place, spending time working in the other place, and then after about a year, I was like, I'll extend on this year's leave of absence. And I called the army and I said it to them, and I was like, called 7th Battalion. I was like, hey, what's the story? It was like, Private Morris here. I was like, I need to extend my year's leave of absence. And they were like, we'll get back on to you about this and everything. And some CS called me about an hour later. He was like, Private Morris. I was like, yeah, you don't know who the CS is, by the way. He says, Private Morris. I says, yeah. He says, you needed to apply for that. He said, you needed to apply for that leave a month ago. You're expected in here on Monday morning, 08:30 in uniform. I says, I'm going to be ticket. That's always the end of it. I said, I'm done, mate. I said, I'll never be in uniform again. I said, you can drop my papers, thanks very much.
That was you done. So you thought you
done, I was out the gap. I was already out of mode, and then as soon as that phone call hit me, I was like, nah, it's too much, I gotta go.
That's good that you just took the leap. But how did you find then, right? So I know you had the year's leave of absence, but how did you find then that transition, let's say, from like soldier to civilian? Like, was it tough?
It was. I think it was because I did the year's leave of absence, which I would always recommend if you can do it to somebody who's kind of on the fence about it. I think it was because I had that I still had the security, but I also had the civilian life. So I was able to trial everything before I decided. You know, which just gave me a much easier decision, because as soon as I was out for like a month or two, I was like, I was like, it's crazy, because, you know, all of the things that I was getting frustrated about, like Saturday duties and stuff like that, I was like, none of this happens. I was like, nobody's catching me for the 24-hour duty on a Saturday anymore. I was like, okay, I was like, I can definitely do this.
Yeah, because that's one of the big things. I remember pulling into like a 21st before, and the stand who got called out, so the miscellaneous got called in. I didn't even know I was on miscellaneous that weekend. The phone rang. Hello. Yeah, I need you in the barracks within the hour. I was like, I'm just literally after walking in the door to the 21st. I had to leave. I was absolutely fuming. Like, so look forward to that stuff not happening anymore. But in terms of like the years leave absence, like how long do you have to be in before you can take that?
Oh, that's a good question. I think it's. Do you have to be on your second
You have to
contract?
be on your second contract.
Is that right?
I think you have to be in
5 years.
5 years.
5
and
years,
then,
yeah.
so you have to be on your 5 to 9 to take it, and you have to apply. I think only certain other people get it a year, isn't it?
Yeah. Depending on how many, and I think it's a first come first serve sort of a thing.
Yeah, definitely. And I think you can extend it though as well, right? For up to 3 years.
Yeah.
If you apply it the right.
Yeah, and as far as I know, you can extend it. You can extend it without coming home.
Yeah.
You know, and they'll obviously take into consideration that people were probably going to be. I was putting it off. It was my own fault. You know, I can't blame them. I'm sure that, like, you know, there would have been some other people that might have said, "Yeah, go on, just stick it through there." But like, it was my own fault. I called like the Friday before I was due back in, and I was like, I want to extend this, and they were like, you can't do that, you mad thing. I was like, forget it then.
Leave it.
Yeah.
And so it was it's handy enough then, because you kind of had that job and you had the fail safe to fall back on.
Yeah.
But then once you kind of knew, then you done like the medical discharge and you got your papers. How did you feel then? Did you feel like you're jumping off a cliff then still, or did you feel happy enough?
No, I was already secure in where I was and everything. Yeah. So it was. I mean, there was a little bit of. What's the word?
Apprehensive, maybe.
Yeah, but more kind of disappointment.
Right.
There was disappointment that that it had kind of come to that, like, because like I was saying, there was definitely parts of the job that I really loved, that I really enjoyed, that you just don't get in any other job.
No, definitely not.
You know what I mean? There's massive parts of it you just don't get in any other job. Like, and again, it's just one of them things that we can talk about it with other army lads and only other army lads, and that's
not everybody gets it. Right?
Yeah, they only get it. Like,
but like, I suppose, what was the main motivating factors for you leaving?
I mean, so like definitely the pay. Pay was number one. Yeah. It was always going to be number one. There was never an opportunity for you to be able to improve your wages by that much. It's not like I could have went out and gotten a qualification that would have increased my wage drastically enough for me to be able to say, okay, I'll stay.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that was definitely number one. The frustration of, going from different units to different units, of never kind of feeling secure, of wondering what was around the corner or what you're going to get caught for and stuff like that. That was it would drive your anxiety up the wall. Yeah,
like going into work and getting told you're going away for 3 days.
Yeah,
in a forest.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, no. Yeah. Get me out here.
I remember there was one time I was on an exercise down in Cork,
right,
and it was a battalion attack or something like this, like a big, huge thing. Where we're out in the ground, like 5:30 in the morning, and we're all being laid out around this field, like, you know what I mean. We're covering off, and it is torrential fucking rain, man. I mean, like, torrential rain, and we're here till about 8 o'clock at night, and I was just lying there in the rain, and I was just like, fuck this. I was like, you know what?
It's probably one of the worst feelings in the world, like when you're lying somewhere freezing cold, soaking wet, and you're there for another 5 or 6 hours. You're just like, oh no, get me home. Dreaming out the heat in the car driving home. Yeah,
everybody is just like, you're coming back on the bus and there's just silence, and everybody has the hoods up and it's asleep in the wet smocks, like,
yeah, it's a nightmare. But then you left, right? So you're with B2B. I thought you're still there. That's what the gym you started with, and now you're still there.
Yeah, still there.
How's things going there?
We moved to another new facility last February.
Yeah, that's in the CUS Business Park, is it?
No, it's in Broomhill. It's in the Broomhill Road. Yeah. It's fairly close to the driving licence testing centre on the Broomhill Road there, and it's a much bigger facility.
Yeah,
fantastic facility. In fairness, it's nearly 3 times the size of the last one, about 11,000 square feet.
Okay.
2 stories, has 4 rooms. It's and I know that this is probably biased, and I know that there's probably another probably 20 gyms in the country that will say the same as this, but it's the best facility in the country. It's the best facility in the country. Like, we have 4 rooms. We have our lift room, our move room, our work room, and then our small group room. Our lift room is 18 racks, custom built. Everybody in the room has their own rack, has their own barbell, has their own plates, dumbbells built into the racks, everything.
Yeah.
And the coaching, like, we have such a really in-depth coaching staff that like the quality of everything we do is just so intense. Everybody pushes everybody. They're so good, like all of the coaches. And then the likes of the other rooms that we have, it just creates this really round system that we're able to kind of give people as much quality as possible. And we're kind of really, really focused on trying to give people the more than what other gyms are giving them.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Or the next big thing.
Yeah, it's really.
You know?
Yeah, I know. Like, I don't know. It's the gym I'm in. It's FitLinks, but it's great, right? So rather than like the commercial gym like FlyFit or whatever, you just go in, the workout's on the board, and you just have your own rack and you just work out. No queuing, in and out in an hour, done and dusted.
Yeah.
That's probably a similar setup, is it?
That's what you want. Yeah. That's it, exactly. It's like, ideally with that sort of a system, you're giving people as much time on the barbell and on the dumbbells as possible. Whereas if you're doing things where you're doing kind of like single dumbbell stuff, it's single dumbbells because you haven't got enough dumbbells to go around generally. Yeah. And generally then the dumbbells are limited because you're having the heavier dumbbells for a heavier exercise, and then all the lighter dumbbells are over here.
Right.
So it kind of tends to be a little bit of a mixed match of things. But and then, like you said, the time consumption thing, you know, ideally you want to be in and out in an hour.
Yeah,
you know, there's literally no need, unless you are training for something specific and like this is your life priority. Well, then there is no need for you to be working out for more than an hour a day. No, well, not even a day, but like, you know, in the gym for an hour. That's all.
Yeah. And in terms of like yourselves, right? So do you use like everyone that comes in, like, are they semi-private classes? Like, how does that kind of work then?
No. So we got semi-private or we got group training. So the lift class has 22 racks. That's
so 22 in a class
of 22 people. Yeah. And
are they tailor-made programs then for each individual, or is it just what's on the board and what you can lift?
No, it's programmed so that it's programmed for everyone. So basically, we work off a 3-day lift program, and then that's also mixed in with a 2-day conditioning program as well. And then we also have a move program as well, which would be all mobility based. Which is something that's really unique to kind of other gyms that I've seen. We have a coach, Lewis, who trains with us, who works with us, who is like fascinated, loves it, and it has been really kind of driving it forward really well.
Brilliant.
Yeah, so it's great.
And in terms of like your own gym then, is there any like ex-army people working there now at the moment, or even current army people? Like,
working in my gym?
Yeah.
No current army people working in my gym. You have a couple of people who kind of pass in and out as members.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. Captain, well, that's it.
No, he's currently in now.
No, okay, yeah, okay. So yeah, we got a couple of we don't have any past members now, Jamie, but yeah, we have a couple of members who are in the gym and stuff like that. So I do be able to keep in touch with them.
Yeah, alright, cool.
You know?
And in terms of like anyone that wants to join the army, right? What advice would you give them to prepare, like, to going in?
Physically?
Yeah, I think physically is one everyone focuses on, but mentally is also another part. So any advice that you have around?
So physically, like I physically, realistically speaking, I'm like, I can give pretty in-depth advice. Or like it's. I mean, physically, you just got to have an engine.
Yeah,
you got to have an engine, and you got to know how to do push-ups.
Yeah, you push the world down.
pretty much it. Like, you know what I mean?
Run,
yeah, like you got to be able to run. Like, in terms of just being able to pass the fitness test, you just got to be able to get out and get a little bit of engine work done. In terms of being able to get through the training, like the training is a much higher demand. Like I struggled massively with the volume of running, and then when they added in packs and boots and weapons, you know, it was a different ball game.
Different kettle of fish. Yeah, I remember. Yeah, I think like I was only 17 when I joined. I think I was like 50 kilos, and they put the pack on my back. Oh my God, I was in a heap.
Yeah.
The helmet all beside me. Some
Yeah,
days
yeah,
running
that's
around.
the funniest one, isn't
Yeah.
it? Like, you know, people running down the road, like, and the helmet is hanging down.
People do me in a bad way, definitely. But,
You see the hardship come out in people then, don't you?
yeah, I remember doing my fitness test to get in, right? And some lad, I forget, I know his name, I won't say it, but he cheated on the fitness test, right? So there's no way in the Phoenix Park, right? You're meant to run all the way up, right? And like pass and give the number. But his number blew off when he got back to the dressing rooms, obviously in the Phoenix Park.
Like, blew off?
Yeah, must have, right? Anyway, gets into the recruitment town, right? And first PT in the first week, he was really overweight, this lad. And he during the warm up, he was like out of breath. I think he had like, I won't say it was like a heart attack, but it was like some kind of like palpitations or something he was having. They had to get an ambulance and bring him off, right? He came back that evening and the doctor turned around to him and said, "You shouldn't even be walking up the stairs." So yeah, like it's definitely important like that you're prepared going in, right?
Yeah, God, yeah. Like, we lost 8 people in the first 3 days in recruit training. Like, it is a rude awakening.
How many people started with just?
We had, I think it was 40. I think we had 48 starting.
Right. Okay.
48 starting, and then we went down to about 32 fairly quickly. And then they bring in the lads as replacements a couple of weeks in.
Yeah, that's
you know
right.
what I mean?
First 2 weeks they're going to have that buffer down to bring like the subs in or whatever.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
Then we got up to about 38, and then we ended up with, I think, finishing with 37.
Okay, that's not too bad.
Yeah, it's not too bad.
Yeah. That's same. I think we started like in kind of high 50s and finished, I think, around the late 20s.
High 50s?
Yeah. Sorry, it would have been around 52, 55, I think, started us. Because obviously some guys came in later after like guys left, like guys are leaving on the first day and stuff. Oh, because like first day in, like get sworn in, you get brought into a room and, you know, stand up with attention when the corporal walks in, and then you're marched over to your accommodation and you're sweeping the floors down when everyone else is getting sworn in. So it's like it's a bit monotonous on the first few days. But look, so advice going in is just prepare, run and do push-ups. And
Yeah, like I think mentally, I think that you either have it or you don't.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
You either have it or you
mental,
don't.
I think.
Yeah, 100%. And it's gas because there's lads who you'd think are just mental fortresses, and then all of a sudden a little bit of pressure comes on them and they are out the gap.
Yeah.
Whereas there's lads who you're thinking, this fella is going to break so easy, and then they make it all the way through.
Yeah,
you know, it's just a mental take that you have to be able to kind of withstand that sort of pressure. Like,
do you remember your buddy? Do you?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah. Same age, same height and stuff as you?
No, he was a good bit younger than me. He was. I remember when we passed out, I was actually at his 21st, not too long after, and I think I was about 20. I think I was about 24.
Yeah, 24.
By the time I passed out and stuff like that. But like, good lad, great lad. Like, he was it was so funny as well. Like, and the lads used to wind him up. He was the Dundalk lad as well. Like, you know what I mean. He didn't drink. He was real quiet, but he was just the funniest young fella. Like, and one of the corporals, he used to constantly wind him up. He used to say to him, you know, he'd be like, "You're so boring." He'd be like, "You keep on putting me to sleep every time you talk." He was like, "You're not allowed to talk to me anymore." He was like, "Anytime you have to respond to me, you're going to tell the person standing beside you, and he's going to tell me." So you'd have to whisper the response in his mate's ear, and he'd be like, "He said no, Corporal." Stop.
I think some of that's just for amusement, correct? Definitely. But yeah, that's good. And I remember, I think I wasn't probably the same height, but like I had like a lad that I think he was like 6'1" or something. He was a big lad, and then down the PT is having to carry him and stuff and give him jockey backs. Legs are broken.
To get stitched up.
Stop. I was always left carrying him, but it was good crack. But would you recommend it like to a friend or a family member to join?
Oh, that's a tough one. You know what? I always said, and maybe it was a little bit of resentment because I had to leave the way I did and stuff like that, or just because I left. But I'd always said, I think there's a really good I think it's a really good job for, you know, somebody who wants to be in the army.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I know that's obviously a little bit biased, like, but I think if somebody wants to be in the army, I think that as well, it's a really good place for kind of people who seem a little bit lost in life. They kind of seem to find their place in it. I think it would all be situation dependent on if I'd refer a friend.
That's fair enough.
It all depends on who it was.
Yeah, definitely. I definitely say to anyone, like, give it a bash, but it's not for everyone. Like, it's clearly not for everybody. And you see that, like, through training, like, people, like, you know, deciding to leave or whatever, like, even during it. But I think, like, it's the psychological contract that keeps people there, right? Like, you know, that wage in the bank every Wednesday without fail, you know, it's coming. But there's never, like, extra overtime or anything. Like, you have to be, like, financially on it, you know.
There's also in training, there's, like, it's nearly a bullish sense of pride where you're like, I have to get through this. You're like, I am so determined to make it to the end of this. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you won't break me. You know what I mean? It's just stubbornness where you're like, you know. If I even think, you could, like, not one point did I think to myself, you know what, I could be getting the same money working in some shop in Dublin with my daughter who's 3 weeks old right now, and I was like, no, I was like, I'm gonna fucking make this. You know, like, right from the very, very start.
Yeah, you definitely, it's definitely, it's another thing, like, you have to earn your brave when you pass out recruit training to be a two-star, like, you have to earn that brave and stuff, like, things like that, like, push you forward. But I remember, like,
that fucking boonie, do you remember that? Wearing that thing for 6 months, man.
They're a nightmare, But I remember, like, crawling through the mud, and them saying, we're not stopping until someone quits. And I was like, I can't quit, I've got nothing else. Up
and down rivers, in through mud puddles, everything. You'd be manky when you all day.
I think that only stopped because someone actually lost a weapon in the river. They had to call in the army dive team and everything to find the weapon in Kilbride. I think they didn't find it till like 8 o'clock that evening or something.
Over.
Oh yeah, it was something more over. But that's really it.
Good stuff.
Yeah, you happy enough?
Yeah.
I think that's us. So look, thanks very much for coming on. It's very much appreciated.
That was good crack, that was.
It was good to obviously, like, sit down and have a chat and catch up with, like, all colleagues. But
that was the element. Cheers for that.